The Washington State Senate race. I was a contestant. I was running for the United States Senate, and I didn't win. Why not? Was the contest rigged? Coming up next on Deceptions of the Ages News. Hello everybody, and welcome to Deceptions of the Ages News. If you've been following my channel for any length of time, you've noticed a conspicuous absence on my part. First of all, let me apologize. I was a little bit busy with the 2018 Senate race in Washington State, in which I was a candidate. Now, the reason I was a candidate, well, you just have to look at the videos on this channel to understand that. But I participated in one of the most unusual races in the history of political races in the United States. And oddly enough, it's one that nobody's really talking about, but one that I think you need to understand. Now, before we get too far into that, I need to make a couple of announcements. First of all, I want to thank everybody who has subscribed, who leaves comments on my videos, because it's these comments and this information that lets me know what you're interested in and what kind of material you would like to see on the Deceptions of the Ages channel. If you're new to the channel, and we picked up a lot of subscribers during my absence while I was running for the Senate, if you're new to the channel, I want you to understand that we deal with the topics mentioned in my book, Deceptions of the Ages, Mormons, Freemasons, and Extraterrestrials. So we talk about things like what is going on in the Latter-day Saint Church, or maybe some archaeological discoveries. Sometimes we talk about conspiracies or things that have involved the Freemasons. And of course, we talk about extraterrestrials, and we keep you updated on the latest news. So if you like any of this kind of information and you like to see regular posts about it, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Oh yes, I want you to know that right before, or actually right after I entered the Senate race, YouTube banned one of my videos. They struck down one of my videos about the Parkland shooting. Now, the reason that they gave was they said I was bullying somebody. Now, in this Parkland shooting video, I mentioned that it was there was a lot of other influences that went into the cultivation of this shooter. And for some reason, YouTube decided that that wasn't appropriate. And on a non-monetized channel, they gave me a strike. And they said I was bullying somebody, which I absolutely was not bullying anybody. I just think that they didn't like the content of my video, because it mentioned, as we always do on Deceptions of the Ages, an alternative viewpoint. So I got a strike, and I was really hesitant to put any more videos on, because they said if I get 2 more, then they will disable my channel, which they're doing all across the board. So I didn't want that to happen. So I think I've got maybe a month and a half to go before I'm off of this probation. But it was pretty unusual, and you know, to use the cause of bullying was pretty suspicious. All right, so speaking of pretty suspicious, let's talk about my involvement in the United States Senate race in Washington State that ended 2 weeks ago to this day. And on this day, the Attorney General, who's named Bob Ferguson, and he's the guy who says that illegal aliens can get out of jail in Seattle and they will not turn them over to ICE. He's been with this group that has continually fought to limit our immigration, to keep terrorists out of the country. And so they have expanded the need for this deep state government, which is one of the reasons that I was running and continue to be a candidate until the election is over, which I'll talk about on my Heines for Senate channel if you want to watch that. So let's talk about this race then. So the first thing that was really suspicious about this race is that there were so many candidates for the Senate seat. And why were there so many candidates for the Senate seat? Because the person who is sitting in the seat right now, a woman by the name of Maria Cantwell, is extremely unpopular in Washington State. So I, like 28 other people, jumped into the race and, filed and paid the fee and became a candidate and began campaigning. So I actually started campaigning in the summer, a couple months before the race actually started. And I didn't have a lot of money to spend. In fact, I had really no money to spend. So I did a lot of hard work. And I actually, in the end, attracted, I believe I was up to 8,000, maybe more voters that liked my message. And if you want to see my message, just go to HEINESSIGHT.com. So that was the result of the election, but the actual election itself was really suspicious because the two people participating, the incumbent, very unpopular, but a Democrat, part of the Democratic machine in Washington State, which this Attorney General Ferguson is also a part of, this Democrat happened to end up on the voters' ballot, the guide, and the actual ballot itself, right next to the Republican Party head who quit the Republican Party just so that she could run in this race. Now, what are her qualifications for running in? Well, she doesn't really have any. She read the news on the local TV channel here in Seattle, but she didn't really have any qualifications other than that people knew her name, and she didn't. She ran the Republican Party in Washington State into the ground. So with those qualifications, she ran a campaign where there were so many other candidates, and we went to events and picnics and the whole usual political thing that all the other candidates did, or most of us did, and she was never anywhere to be seen. Neither were any of the other the incumbent or any of the other a few of the other Democrats. So it's very unusual that the two front runners didn't even do any campaigning. And the reason they didn't do any campaigning is because they have millions and millions of dollars to spend. And also, as I said before, they're part of the Democratic political machine, which puts Tammany Hall from New York in the early 1900s to shame. So let me just explain to you how, and I just got off the phone to the woman who works the elections in Olympia, and she works for the Secretary of State. Now, she explained to me how the process of how the incumbent, Maria Cantwell, the senator, and I should say that in quotation marks, but the senator and the most popular newsreader on the ballot and the former head of the Republican Party happened to get right together at the very top of the ballot. So how this happened is, according to the Secretary of State, her assistant, there were 30 numbers assigned and put into capsules. That was drawn out of a lottery-like device, and then that number was assigned to the candidates according to the number they filed, to the ranking in which they filed. Now, the Republican candidate, Hutchison, she filed at the very end of the filing date. She filed like on the Friday when it was going to close. And Cantwell also filed very late and did it like on the Thursday before it closed. But somehow, when they drew these lots, and they would like draw a number 1 or draw a number 7, and then they would assign number 7 to the first person that signed up to run. And then they went down, drew the random number, and through all of this randomness, if you can believe it, Hutchison and Cantwell ended up together on the very front of the ballot, and the only people in front of them were people that were never going to be voted for. So it is extremely suspicious. Now, another thing that is extremely suspicious is the fact that there are 4.2 or 4.3 million registered voters according to the Secretary of State's website. 4.3. And the incumbent was elected with 880,000, not even a quarter of the state's voters elected her. While as the second runner, the newsreader, she got 390,000 votes. So not anywhere near Cantwell. So what she did is basically she came into the race, and where there were a bunch of legitimate candidates like myself, she just stole everybody's votes and lost the race, which is somehow what the Republicans do in Washington State, and why I ask the Republicans, please do not nominate me to be your pick for the nominee for Senate, because I didn't want that kiss of death upon me. So this is the facts. This is the information, and this is what I got according to the Secretary of State. There were people there. Actually, one of the candidates was there and saw this. According to her, there was video taken, but nobody knows where that video. The candidate took the video, nobody else did, and then she also said that she took pictures of it, but I don't know anything about the pictures. So this is, I'm just saying that the chances, the random chances of possibility or probability that the heads of two parties would end up together on a ballot are astronomical. But to end up together at the top of the ballot, right after people that would never ever be voted for, but right ahead of me on the ballot, well, that basically killed a lot of people's chances. And so whatever you can say about this election, it was highly unusual. And the last thing I want to say is the other thing that was really unusual about this, there was no media coverage of anything. Nobody heard anything about any candidates except if the candidates took out ads. Now, some of the candidates spent thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, and I didn't, because I really am running for the governor's office in 2020, but I just wanted my name out there with the voters. So this is the Washington State 2018. I do have a strategy. I'm still in it until the final, the general. I'm going to try to participate as a write-in candidate, and we'll see how that goes. Now, I want to thank you for watching, and I want you to be aware that I will continue to post regularly now that the Senate race is over, and I wish you all the best. And this is Matthew Heines, Senate candidate and gubernatorial candidate in 2020 for Washington State. Thanks for your time, and we'll see you next time on Deceptions of the Ages News.